Hello students, now we shall go through the other polymer processing techniques. So one is extrusion molding. So extrusion is just like it is an upgraded or a part of like injection molding technique. So extrusion is one of the cheapest methods available for producing many common plastic products such as films, filaments, tubes, sheets, pipes, rods, hoses, straps, all in which are in continuous lengths. That is a lengthy type of polymers. So the molten plastic under suitable condition is forced through a die orifice which imparts the desired profiles to extrude. So here also there is an just like in the case of injection molding technique. So as the injection molded article comes out from that stationary and movable part, here there is no stationary and movable part, but there is a die assembly where it gives the shape to that polymer product. A simple technique is explained here, schematic representation. So it consists of a hopper, main cylinder fitted with heating filaments. The main cylinder is again divided into three zones: feed zone, compression zone, metering zone, which is in turn connected to an die assembly. So this is all together, this main cylinder is connected to a screw for rotation, that is for uniform distribution of polymers. So when a compounded plastic polymer is fed through the hopper as in the form of powder or in form of granules into the cylinder having electrical heating elements, the hot plastic charge which moves through the cylinder to the different zones and finally to the die assembly. So each zone contributes in its own way over to the overall extrusion process. The first zone, the feed zone, for instance, receives the charge from the hopper and sends it over to the compression zone. So no heating takes place in the feed zone. In the compression zone, the powder charge melts due to the heat conducted from the heating elements and is compressed by the working of the screw. So there is screw which it gives, which can be rotated eitherwise. The pasty molten plastic material is then sent to the metering section, that is metering zone, where it acquires a constant flow rate imparted by the helical flight of the screw. The press belt is then in this pressure built in this section enables polymer melt to enter the die and emerge out of it with the desired profile. So due to highly viscous nature of some polymers, one more reason called working zone may also be required. So depending upon the requirement of the product you want, the zones can be classified furthermore. So mainly a long sheets or filaments, a kind of which are of continuous length, are produced by this extrusion molding technique. So right after it is extruded is accordingly carried over a conveyor belt through a tub containing cold water. During this process, material dissipates heat to water and gets set. Cold air blast and cold water spray can also be used for cooling. The product formed is cut into the desired length or wound onto the rolls. So extrusion process is mainly used for coating wires and cables with PVC or rubber and for coating roll formed metal strips with suitable thermoplastics. So right. So this is one type of polymer processing. Just it resembles in some form an injection molding technique. So thermoforming. Thermoforming is also an highly useful process for fabricating three-dimensional articles from plastic sheets. So thermoplastic sheet is heated to its softening temperature. So warm flexible sheet is then pressed into female half of matched male die duly assisted by the male half. So as you can see in the picture, there are many 5 diagrams nearly given. So one is, this is a thermoplastic sheet, the first one, where it is made in the length form and heated to the softening temperature. So depending upon the required shape, it is kept into the die. So below is a female die, above is a male die. So when it is kept on the female die and pressed with the male die, it takes the shape of the article. So third picture you can see thermoformed article. So this is again so kept for some time as the sheet assumes the required shape of the mold, and after some time when it is solidifies, uh, it comes over the softening temperature, solidifies and takes the shape of the article. It is cooled, the shaped article becomes rigid, and now it can be removed from the mold. So below is another way of thermoforming process, that is vacuum forming process. So here also you have a similar type of process. So there is a clamp above, so it is heated to the softening temperature, the thermoplastic is heated to the softening temperature. So below is mold. So when it is hot plastic sheet is sucked into the cavity of the mold under the influence of vacuum to give the desired shape. Now this method is called as vacuum forming. Only thing is there is no vacuum formed article in the case of the above thermoforming process. So below there is that is hot plastic sheet, which is thermoplastic sheet is sucked into the cavity of female mold. So when it is kept, it takes the there is a vacuum is created. So vacuum, so under the influence of vacuum to give the desired shape. So this process is called vacuum forming instead of thermoforming. So it we call it as a vacuum forming process. So right. So this is how a simple another simple polymer processing technique. So next coming to the forming. So as you can see this in the schematic diagram, these two looks like a sponge. So where the cells are where there are some cells, some are interconnected, some are closed. So there are in the case of forming, so mainly two types are there. So usual formable polymers used are polyurethanes, polystyrene, polyethylene, polypropylene, silicones, epoxy, PVC, and like the like these materials are used. Form structure consists of either discrete cells, that is closed cells, or of interconnecting cells where we call it as open cells. Discrete unit cells are closed cells and may enclose gases, while the interconnecting cells are of open type. So two are given. So in the first closed cells, all are completely closed, so there is no space. In the interconnecting cells, it is open type, there is some space between one cell to another cell. So many different methods are employed for this forming process. So one method is to melt a compounded thermoplastic material and blow air or nitrogen in such a way the whole matrix forms up. It is just like blowing an air to the a balloon where it expands. So just this looks like a sponge-like material. So addition of surface active agents helps the forming up process. So when the required degree of forming is achieved in the midst of blowing air or nitrogen, matrix is cooled to the ambient temperature. Once that means, so once the foam that material thermoplastic material gets built up or uh, it expands due to the air or nitrogen which is blowed into that material thermoplastic material, at that stage it is cooled. In this process material is allowed to solidify in a formed up condition. So along with thermoplastic, thermosetting liquid polymers can also be blown up, cooled and then heated to complete the cure in the formed up condition. So usually a forming is achieved by addition of foaming agent or blowing agent. Such agents are solvents with a low boiling point or certain chemical compounds. So right, this is solvents such as N-pentane, N-hexane under normal Q temperature of polymeric materials boil off and liberate large volume of vapors. So these formed plastics can be made in flexible, rigid or semi-rigid forms. When foaming is carried out inside the mold cavity, articles uh, made of formed plastic can be directly obtained. Formed sheets and rods can also be used for fabricating articles of different shapes. So these are some other types of polymer processing techniques. So remaining we shall see next.